You've cleared all current Limbus Company content. You've cleared Chapter 4.5, and you can clear your weekly hard run with your eyes closed. You've gotten sub 150 on the railway, and you've beaten Library of Aruna and Lobotomy Corporation. Now you're bored while you wait for the next Kanto to release. You search Steam's recommendation for similar games and are disgusted. Persona 4? Are you kidding me? Well, this video's for you, as I too have run out of Project Moon content. But fear not, for I bring gifts. I offer you a list of games that could scratch that itch. Project Moon has created a pretty unique setting, that's hard to contest, but I feel these games offer a close enough experience in some capacity. The setting of the city has some easily identifiable traits and tropes. The largest factor is its anime art style. Okay, just kidding. The largest factor to the city is its focus on a dystopian hyper-capitalist society, with the humans who inhabit it being mere cogs in a larger machine. An unforgiving setting that is waiting to chew you up, spit you out, and take a shit on you. There's an emphasis on a deeper lore if you dig into it, but you can still enjoy the game without having to look into it. What's more is a collection of horror or trigger warnings. Body horror, hyperviolence, and mental breaks have been a major alluring part of the series since the beginning. There's something to be said about the tinge of eldritch horror as well. Horror being less that keeps you from sleeping type of horror, and more the generally unnerving type. There's a solid argument for turn-based tactics to be integral as well. If you don't read carefully, every Project Moon player's Achilles heel, you will suffer for your haste. And yes, I am considering Lobotomy Corporation turn-based because you can pause time at any time, and they actively challenge you by taking this ability away at times. Oh, and waifus. Gotta have waifus, that's non-negotiable. With these criteria, I will attempt to introduce you to a new game or two that you haven't heard of yet. Not all of these games on this list will have the aforementioned traits, but will at least have some combination of them. It would be really easy for me to pick some low-hanging fruits for some popular titles. Armored Core, Darkest Dungeon, 40K, and the Lisa series come to mind. So these won't be on the list. And that hurts because outside of those, there really isn't a lot that fit the bill. That I could find anyway. I'm sure there are many hidden gems just waiting to be unearthed. Much like the first entry, Fear and Hunger. While I said I wouldn't show off popular franchises, I feel the Fear and Hunger fandom has a familiar rabidness to their passion for the IP. Fear and Hunger has crept into a sub-mainstream culture in the prior years, much like Project Moon has. I will preface this by saying I have not played either of their games, but I have fallen down the well into their setting's lore. And it is a deep, deep well. Huge shout out to Wormgirl for popping into my timeline with her video way back when it first debuted. Fear and Hunger has garnered a well-deserved reputation as downright mean in terms of difficulty. It's one of those games that you will not complete on your first run. You will need to learn the rules and abuse them if you even want to start to survive, let alone explore. It's no capitalist dystopia, instead taking place in an alternate history of Earth. I've heard the setting best described as Berserk, but you're the side character. And that makes perfect sense to me. The first game takes place in the Dark Ages, where the sequel takes place during the Second World War. Your role in both games is to struggle against the machinations of new gods, old gods, crow people, and clowns. No, not those clowns. As well as your fellow humans. Eldritch undertones would be a misnomer. These are eldritch overtones. The game takes inspiration from a number of different series to use as shorthand for their setting. Some people take umbrage, but personally I think it's fine. It's an RPG Maker game that uses turn-based combat focusing on limb-based damage, although this is a series where you want to avoid combat as much as you can. Or at least one where you want to make sure you have the utter advantage before you initiate. You rarely have that luxury in the first game. Ever wonder what it would be like to be an AI on the run from their corporate overlord? Then Citizen Sleeper is for you. A gripping narrative following a sleeper, an AI responsible for providing for a space colony for said corporate overlords. AI might be a misuse of the title though. The intelligence was only created through scanning a human consciousness and uploading it into a biosynthetic body en masse. In this game though, you have broken free, planned obsolescence being their final fuck you need a stabilizer drug to keep going. This is the truest form of hypercapitalism, as we can already see this practice used in real life. Apple. Unlike our storied counterpart, our task in exploring the game is far easier. While it's not impossible to lose, Citizen Sleeper is known to be an easier game that focuses more on the narrative. A rich and well thought out environment for you to dig into. Turn-based is as much of a sense as the narrative choice game can be. Wake up, Sleeper. I think you'll learn to enjoy this one. So anyway, up next is Darkest Dungeon. Psych, it's Korean Darkest Dungeon. Mistover is what you would get if you take Darkest Dungeon, mix it with Mega Man Battle Network and Etrian Odyssey, and give it a good dose of Korea's take on the medieval art direction. Sadly, the company that developed Mist went under a few years ago, and the title was never picked up, so you cannot get it through legitimate means on any digital store. Physical copies might still be out there, but I feel this is a valid case to appropriate it by other means. No loss in sales means no one here really loses, if you just so happen to find it by some other means. Going down the checklist, the anime art style definitely takes a center stage, and you don't even need a workshop, unlike a certain other game. The difficulty can be easy story mode, or as unfairly difficult as you would like with built-in options, so everyone here can find exactly what they're looking for. Despite liking challenging games, I do appreciate the option for modular difficulties. Just beware the third boss, regardless of difficulty. The lore is substantial, and the world is interesting enough to keep playing to see where it leads. Both the enemies and the deaths can be quite brutal, which goes hand in hand with the Eldritch Abominations. Overconfidence is a slow and insidious killer. Wait, wrong game. And of course there's waifus in this game. Big props to Seth for showing off Quasimorph for a grand total of 5 seconds, and being the only reason I found it. Quasimorph being the game that spurred this video's topic. It's very much an early access title, and is still a very rough gem. But every gem starts out rough. Even if you don't pick up Quasimorph right now, keep an eye on it. I am confident that it will be a great game down the line. This isn't a release an unfinished game, finish it later type of deal either. It's very clear about being unfinished, but offers the game as early access while they work on it. What early access should be used for. Taking place in the far-flung future of 2200, you are charged with running a PMC group, taking jobs across the solar system for any of the various megacorps as you please, from the standard Apple and Disney head honchos, to the rebels fighting the big man, and the questionable, obviously demon-possessed cults that have given in to the voices in their head from across the veil. Oh yeah, Eldritch overtones.
I'll make something of my life and come back with success.
During your mission, regardless of who you decide to take money from, demons are seeking to enter real space in place of the enemies you gun down. The difficulty isn't quite difficult as it is punishing for not preparing and responding properly. Not bringing enough food, meds, or ammo will be the death of you as you limp bleeding down the hallway praying to find some band-aids. The game is turn-based in the sense that for every action you take, everyone else gets to respond. Each mission is prefaced with a healthy heap of lore for both the megacorps, locations, and the mission itself. Seriously, keep an eye on this one. Katana Zero is probably the biggest departure on this list from the gameplay Project Moon offers us, but is the closest to their setting. Katana Zero follows the titular samurai, Zero, on his list of jobs from an unknown employer. In return, he gets access to a drug called Chronos. Chronos is downright a singularity. A drug that lets the user experience both time dilation as well as precognition. However, it kills the user should they suffer from withdrawal. Checklist time. The fluid side-scrolling action game is beautifully rendered and shaded throughout. You get a strong indication from both the art direction as well as the story of the cyberpunk dystopia. Imagine a society post-Vietnam War. But the vets occasionally work claws, dispensing their hyperviolent justice. The story strings you along with an evolving A, B, and C plots, which have left fans yearning for the promised DLC or sequel. Apparently, it's still being worked on, but it has been quite a while. Oh yeah, plenty of anime, and your very own waifu. Oh okay, here's an extra for you in the form of Barotrauma. Don't want to experience a dominating atmosphere alone? Perhaps you're greatly interested in what could possibly exist below the Great Lakes. Well then Barotrauma is for you and your pals. Just beware of letting clowns aboard. Barotrauma is your journey to take below the seas of Europa, one of Jupiter's many moons. You can act as a shuttle for cargo between settlements in the biosphere, or you can be an adventurous crew seeking the mystery of what lies at the bottom of these 200,000 leagues under the sea. It is unknown if this is a hyper-capitalist setting or not. The Coalition is a good pointer, at the very least. Obviously, humanity has progressed enough to colonize the solar system, but in lore, the Earth hasn't been contacted in 50 years. Their fate left a mystery to those still in the aquatic moon. You and your crew will come across many deep-sea horrors who will attempt to breach your hull for your succulent human flesh. They will almost never stop in their quest, lest you outrun or outgun the beasts. The setting is as intriguing as the sea is deep. As for waifus, you will accept the Honk Mother at some point in time. Our timeline has already proven humanity's weakness for Clussy. And for the love of God, play Wolfstride, I'm begging you, I promise it belongs in the video.